Hello, everyone. This is me again. Wanted to bring some quick attention on a chart that I saw from the Federal Reserve. Had some interesting data on it. While I was going through it, it appeared to me that there has been a lot of work happening across the country with succession planning and practically family generational wealth transfer. I wanted to share this with you because I thought some of the numbers were pretty staggering and it was pretty interesting and pretty cool to see some of the growth happening amongst different race classes across the country. So let's jump into it. On the charts, I noticed that back in 2020, this is Q4 of 2020 based off the Federal Reserve, white Americans contributed and owned $49 trillion of the assets in the US. Black Americans owned $2 trillion of the assets across the country. Hispanics owned $1 trillion of the assets across the country. And others, they had others listed as Asian and Pacific Islanders, not classed with white, blacks, or Hispanics, owning $2 trillion of the assets in the country, totaling to $49 trillion. Fast forward 22 years later, Q4 of 2022, white Americans owned $128 trillion of the assets. Black Americans owned $8 trillion. Hispanics owned $6 trillion. Others owned $16 trillion. And the overall value across the country totaled out to $158 trillion of assets. So what are we looking at? In total growth percentage, white Americans grew 190% of their assets, whether they went out and bought more assets, bought more businesses, or developed more businesses, bought more real estate, whatever it may be. Black Americans grew by 300%, Hispanics grew by 500%, and the other class grew by 700%. That's exciting. In total, American values went up 222%, which tells us some of these individuals have been working not harder necessarily, but possibly strategizing their growth in their businesses much more aggressive than others. That brings me back to succession planning. How can we leverage transferring generational wealth to our family? So let's talk about it. Most of you are owners of capital intensive, high risk, high reward businesses across the country, especially being in the auto space. So how do we do that? First, we want to look at how do we impact our community with opportunities that can change their lives. Most of you, if not all of you, I have seen on LinkedIn, I've seen across different media sources, are doing a fantastic job of creating opportunities, going out and buying more dealerships, and creating opportunities for minorities, men, women, Black American, Hispanic American, across the country. Through that, you've been able to not only impact your bottom line across the numbers, but you also have been able to impact the middle class who are heavily impacted as far as the challenges to growing that number. The next thing is diversifying. As an owner, it's relatively easy to go out and buy another dealership rather than pouring your cash in securities and other risky investments. You know, not everyone's excited to go and dump their cash into a 70-30 stock bond split because, the current market, but relatively over time, the market has been able to deliver at minimum 4 to 5%, but in most cases, more than that. The next thing we want to talk about is tax efficient and productive organizational structures. What does that mean? Some of you have gone out and bought more dealerships over the last 3 years. So looking at your organizational structure, unless you plan on going public, pass-through is your friend. We want to look at pass-through structures. Means if you are a C Corp and you don't plan on going public, maybe an S Corp election might be a more approachable or more beneficial structure for you. That way, you can actually have a management or holding company and you can actually create equitable opportunities for your key managers while you still have pass-through flowing up to your holding company. Now, you cannot grow on your own, so you need to be open to letting your key managers put some skin in the game. And that method will allow you to do that without risking ownership. And the next thing is that your business is not a bank. Your dealership is not a bank. And it might be a good opportunity to keep your cash in the floor plan account because it's paying you 7% or it's paying you 5%. It's paying you much more than your checking account, your business checking account, or you think that it's less riskier than managed portfolio, having a 70-30 stock bond split. Might be true. However, your business is not your bank. And that would lead you into needing a CFO. I do believe it is critical after the purchase of 4 to 5 dealerships, you're in position to needing a CFO. And if you don't have one, it'd be very good to have one because that leads you into the areas of asset management, treasury management, and also it connects the dot to your transferring of generational wealth because you need to understand and know how much money do I need to live on? How much money is my business producing? And being able to forecast that out will be very critical. And that usually comes with the working of your CFO and your strategic advisors throughout that. And the next one is being open to building family wealth and not just your own. Why is this important? At some point, you just have enough and you're proud of your hard work. You've got one dealership or you've got 20 dealerships, whatever the case may be. However, your family wealth will be much more critical and much more important beyond your own means because you're not here forever. Unfortunately, we all don't live forever. And there's ways to do that. How do we do it? There's different ways to leveraging tax efficient structures and to transfer generational wealth, either through an EJIT, a BDIT, a SLAT, dynasty trust, a GRAT, which I would say a GRAT is much more efficient during your lifetime and not after. But those are some different ways that we can actually transfer wealth and transfer assets to our families and impact the numbers that we've seen on the chart. Thank you guys for tuning in.